Hello, everyone. We're going to get started soon. Sharon's just setting up. So thank you for your patience. And I'm just going to mute for another minute or two.
Hello, everyone. So I'll do a quick little welcome here and then we will get started. All right, let's go. So I'm just gonna get things going here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first teaching in a series of creation storytelling that we're excited to bring to you in a virtual format. My name is Amanda. I am operations assistant for Anish Corporation, and I am helping to moderate the event. I'm going to be the one pressing all the buttons while Sharon does her sharing. So I'm hoping to make that easy for everyone. Just a couple logistics before we get going. I'm just going to ask everybody to mute their mics just while we have the program going. There will be some time at the end of today's session with Sharon to do some questions. I know not everybody's comfortable speaking their questions over the camera, but if you want to enter your questions into the chat box just as we go, then at the end we'll take some time to answer your questions. And we can also do, we'll do the verbal questions too if anybody would like to take a moment to share. But for now, I'm just gonna go ahead and there's a few people who have their mics unmuted. It's just to help with the background noise so that we can hear Sharon when she speaks clearly. If anybody has any questions during the session, they can feel free to message myself directly. If you don't want to share it in the chat, you can just use the chat box feature. But for now, I will get the storytelling started. I'm just going to get Sharon set up here. Sharon, do you mind just clicking unmute on your screen? Sorry, we're in the same office, so it's a bit of running back and forth, but we're trying to keep socially distanced so that we can bring this storytelling to everybody. So I noticed that everybody said in the group chat where they're coming from, and it's incredible. We're coming from all over Canada. So I see Dauphin, Winnipeg, North Dakota, Coast Salish Territory, Quebec, Saugeen, Treaty 1 Territory, all over the place. So we're very excited to have everyone here. I will let Sharon introduce herself and share a bit about her background before she gets going. But yeah, thank you to everybody who is joining today. I'll hop in at the end again to say a few words, but for now, I will let Sharon take the floor.
Bonjour. My name is, my English name is Sharon Ward, and my spirit name is Ompeg Misto Jigajet Nindalavisi, which is in the Mi'kmaq language, it means white buffalo woman. And my other spirit name in the Anishinaabe is is Gabadik, which means sounds like the tips of the feathers or the wings. And I am originally from the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, and my father, though, is from the East Coast. And anyway, today we're going to do my variation of how I learned this creation story. Now I understand that other nations have their own way, and the thing is that this creation story comes from the Anishinaabe people, and it's quite interesting. And the thing is that when you listen to different elders that talk, you'll have elders that'll say so much, and then they'll leave something, and then you'll have another elder that'll come and they'll fill in those empty spots. And it's just the fact that you have to listen to the elders as they're speaking. So for me, I was taught this story as a young girl, but I haven't talked about this story in such a long time. I think my son was very young, and I touched briefly on it when I'm in other workshops. So today you'll learn what it is that I have to say. Anyway, I'd like to start with a smudge, and because it helps me to cleanse my mind, my body, my spirit, and my emotion. And it also helps me to ground myself so that my mind isn't all over the place, because it's going to be like that anyway. When you get up there in age, then you start to experience that. Today I'm using sage to smudge with. Sage is a medicine that women use mostly because it's given to them by the buffalo, and they can use it at any given time. Men can use it at any time as well. I smudge my mind, smudge my head, so I have good thoughts and I have a good mind to think in a good way. I smudge my eyes so I see good things. I smudge my ears so I hear good things. I smudge my mouth so I say good things. I smudge my hands so that I respect all creation in a good way, kind way. I smudge my feet so I walk this road in a good, kind way. I smudge my fan so that the eagle can help me with these teachings. And I smudge my glasses because it helps me to see. A long time ago, there was a woman and there was a child. And the child and the woman traveled. And they traveled a very long distance. I sure hope that you can see these. Can't really see it. I bought other pens and I forgot them at home. There was like I said, I'm trying to do this the best that I can so you guys can see this. I'm not all that great at drawing, not stick figures anyway. So anyway, there is that little boy, which is right here, and that woman. They traveled on the back of the turtle. They came to a place. They came to a place that was full of water. They traveled in the stars. They came from the Star Nation. And they came to this place that had water. So they were very curious. So they had come down to this place and they landed on the water while they were on the back of the turtle. They looked around and they seen that everything was good. So the woman started to create animals. She started to create the four-legged, and she started to create the birds. And the little boy, being who he was very mischievous. And he wanted to be all over. But at that time, there was no, what they call today, there was no gravity. So when this little boy walked around on the back of the turtle, he would leave a footprint here, and the other footprint would be way over on the other side. And then all over the place, this little boy would leave a footprint embedded on the back of the turtle. Now the woman, she wanted to continue with creation. She wanted everything to be good. So she continued, and she made a lot of beautiful things. So this turtle here, I'll grab another one here. Ended up being there on the back, on the water. So they started to create. As she was creating, this little boy started to get into trouble, like all little boys do. You know, this little boy was named Nanabusho, and in other nations they call him Wasegejak, or they call him Nape, or they have many other names for him. But he's talked about in other tribes as well. Now this little boy, he would change the creation, not a lot, but a little at a time. There are a lot of funny stories about him. And this is when the world was flat. No, I'm just kidding. The world wasn't flat back then. But it was a round ball that it had the water and the turtle. The turtle felt at home because the turtle, she enjoyed the water. She felt so good. She had the warmth of the sun. And she had the light of the stars and the star nations. And she had traveled far to get to be on this spot. They had traveled past the bear, and they had traveled past the waters. that are in the sky. They also traveled past the male and the female pipes. They traveled past the fish that are in the sky and the bears. So there was a lot of places that they had gone before they got here. But when they got here, this woman, she made a lot of different things. But there was a time when she had come to a point where she had to stop creating because there was no land. There was no soil. So they try to figure out what it is that they can do. And Nanabush, he was the one who said, well, there must be some land far down in the water. And she agreed. So they asked the animals, because there were some that were able to go inside the water, if one of them would be able to go down and try to retrieve the land. So, the first one was a beaver, but the beaver wasn't successful. And the other animals were kind of scared because it seemed like such a far, far way. So finally, it was the muskrat. The muskrat came forward, and the muskrat was the one who went inside the water. And he went far, far down, and he grabbed hold of the soil, the mud from the bottom of the circle. And he brought it up, and on his way up, he lost his life. But when he came up like this. So they grabbed him. They grabbed that muskrat and pulled him out. And they opened up the muskrat's hand. And there was just enough for her to take and create the rest of the land. And she placed it all on the back of the shell of that turtle. And she continued to create with the help of the Great Spirit. She continued to create life on the earth, on our mother, the turtle, the back of the turtle. This is why we call ourselves, we say we are the buffalo people of Turtle Island, because this turtle is where that land is. So she continued to create. She created, because there was some life inside that water, she wanted to create something that was beautiful. So she created other forms of turtles and fish, and she crayfish and lobsters and octopuses and all different kinds of animals. And the dolphins and the whales. The dolphins are another story. We'll go into that one at a different time. They have all these animals have stories. All of creation. The butterflies have stories. The ants, the bees, everything have got their own stories. And then there's the grass and the trees that were created upon the back of the turtle. And life was becoming full. Now, because the world is alive, the world is alive. The water is alive, because that's where life comes from. So before anything, before a child is born or any mammal is born, there's always that water that comes first. So that water will come first before the life of that individual. And that's the reason why that water is there, is because just like in the creation story, there was water first before there was any other life upon earth. So all water comes from that. And our mother, the earth, came from deep down inside in a small little place that eventually grew and grew over time. And that from that little bit that muskrat took, it's all on the back of this turtle here to create the other life. So mud is not dirty. It just seems like it is. It's a mess at times. But just think of it. A long time ago, they said that it was filth, that it was dirty. And nowadays, people are paying money for it. Put it on their faces and bodies, help themselves to heal. So it's a beautiful thing. It's a very beautiful thing. And we're able to see that it's a beautiful thing now. Now, when the Creator created all these things, it decided to create the gravity to hold everything, because otherwise there'd be nothing left here. It would all end up being out in outer space. Because even on the moon, they're discovering that when they have people out there, it's just like how this world was before creation was created, and there's no gravity. They go all over the place in one jump. So scientists today are just starting to find out that the creation story is real. Now, the thing is that a lot of people have a lot of misunderstandings about things, because you see, a lot of people think that Turtle Island is only here, but it isn't. There's a reason why we are called First Nation. Now, this turtle, I'm going to do it in black because it's easier for everybody to see. Okay? This turtle had a lot of things to offer. A lot of things. We navigate a lot of things by this turtle, and those are other teachings as well. And but life came forward. I don't want to lose track. Life came forward upon the back of this turtle. So Creator decided to divide it. Creator decided to create 4 nations of man. Creator created the Red Nation. Creator created the Blue Nation, the White Nation, and we call them the Yellow Nation. Creator created all 4 nations of mankind. He created both male and female, or should I say she, the one who was helping with creation, created both male and female. so that life will always be able to continue. But the Great Spirit decided that he was going to give each nation a gift. And he was going to choose how they were going to be gifted. So when the white nation left aside a creator, like the Spirit, to be upon the earth, they only looked back one time. So Creator gave them a gift. And the yellow nation looked back 2 times, and they got 2 gifts. The blue nation looked back 3 times, received 3 gifts. The red nation didn't even want to leave Creator's side. We wanted to continue to be with Creator. So Creator kept saying, go, go. So we looked back 4 times because we were being sent here. We didn't want to leave Creator's side. So we're all placed in each one of the directions, right? The red nation in the east, the north, the west, and the south. We're all placed in each one of these directions. Now, as we had, as time went on, whenever we would have, because when the seasons were starting to change, sometimes they would fluctuate in a negative way, like where there would be what they called ice ages. Now we have documented at least 8 ice ages within our people. And every time that there was an ice age, we'd break apart and we'd move further and further into those directions. So we became further and further apart. But for everybody who has kept their creation stories, they all know this, that we were always here in this direction. Always. And once again, in that 408 AD treaty, we were remembered in that treaty, even though we never signed it. But they smoked a pipe for it. There was only 3 Indians that were there during the time, or should I say, and one was Anishinaabe, one was Dakota, and one was Iroquois, or Mohawk. No, Iroquois. Anyway, it was those 3 that were there during the signing of that 408 AD treaty. But in the meantime, they always knew that we were here. So Creator created both male and female. Creator created with the help of that woman, because there always has to be male and female to bring forth creation. You can't have creation just from male, and you can't have it just from female. And everything that comes into this world comes in through female. So when Creator created this world, and the woman helped him with all of these things, like the Great Spirit, right? When the Creator and the Great Spirit created this life, they had brought forth everything. And everything was good. And everything relied on everything. Each and every one of these directions, we all had our paradise. We all found our way of life in order to create things that we needed in order to survive. We found our own way of survival. And everything was good. And as our people grew and our nations became stronger and bigger, they started to break off again with inside of each other. And we recognize this white road here, this white way. We don't recognize them as just one nation. We recognize them as two because they decided to break apart. So there is one that still follows the old way of life, and they want to learn. They still want to be a part of our way because our way reminds them of their old way. And we call them the white tribes. And the other one separated itself from that creation because we all had the same way of life. We had the same way of praying. We all had pipes, we all had drums, we all had rattles, we all had the medicines. And we all followed the way of the Great Spirit. Then one day, one of the people from this race here threw down his pipe, broke his drum, stepped on his rattle, and started screaming at Creator and said, I don't want to have this way no more. And Creator was really close to our people back then. We didn't need to use a lot of things in order to communicate with Creator. Creator heard our prayers and showed us how his answer was through dreams and visions. And Creator answered him and said, well, what is it that you do want? And he said, I want to be able to travel far, great distances, discover many lands, conquer them. And I want to be able to travel and conquer these people and conquer these lands. And Creator said to him, okay, from this day forward, you'll have that, but you will always be looking for me. So this race here broke off. So one is a white race and one is a white tribe. The white tribe people, their spirit, you can see how they are because they still love us. They still want to be a part of us. They still want to be around us. And we love them just as much too. But that's how that was a long time ago. Since the time of creation, though, a lot of things have changed. Like the names of the trees. Somebody once told me that when I was a little girl and I used to talk to the elders, and the elders that I used to speak to were from the 1800s. And the language that we spoke was it was very different than what it is nowadays. Today I have a hard time understanding people when they talk. I can catch on to some things here and there, but it's hard for me to understand because the language has changed, or shall I say evolved. And so anyway, there's a lot of things within our creation story. That's one of the reasons why I don't say this in the language, is because no one would understand me. I've asked people too if they can translate what I say, and it comes out different than what I actually have said because I speak an older dialect. Now, so if we were to take this the whole world map and cut it out and try to find it, piece it together, we'll find that the whole thing is like the back of a turtle, not just North and South Americas, or what is known today as the North and South Americas. Like you can piece them together and yes, you'll see that turtle, but the other nations make it a lot bigger because we were all one at one time. Now the thing is that like I said, the names of things have changed, and everything has a story. And a lot of times, like our people, I don't know if it's that they've forgotten or it's just that they don't know. And it's probably the fact that they don't know, because when the residential schools came around, our people lost a lot of things. They learned a lot of negative things in those schools, um, because we never used to have abuse amongst our people. Our people were very strong, and the greatest gift that you can have is your family, your children, your grandchildren. It was so beautiful, from what I understand, from the stories that I had learned. So all the trees in that had different names, and they all had different stories. Like, I'll just say a few. Like the poplar tree, that's Ogimalmatik. He is the leader tree, and there's a story about him and how he became that tree, and how at one time when he was a human being, he was he was a great leader, and he was given that by Creator to continue on and be the leader of the people by being that first tree in a lot of different ceremonies. And then there's old cursed woman willow, which is now called diamond willow. And they call it old cursed woman because the way that that willow grows, it kind of grows around and kind of twisted in some areas. And she'll grow straight in some areas, and then she'll twist. And then you'll see kind of like a diamond, which represents her womanhood. But there's a story about her too, and how she became that tree, how she became that willow. And then there's the woman who cried for her children. That's the one they call the weeping willow. So we have a lot of different trees that have a lot of different names and different stories. I have to laugh sometimes, because when you ask people about what their names are, I don't know, I don't think that they have words for them. Why they say matik, and then you say, well, what's the name of that when you point at a different tree? That's another matik. And it's just that, you see, we never used to have what is known as broken English. What we had was a broken Anishinaabe bone, because in the language we didn't have words to describe what those things were. Those were new creations that came our way, and we didn't have words for them yet. And so when the old people try to describe those things, they just sit there and go trying to think of something to call it. And then finally they would just say it in English on what they heard, like the stories that they heard, right? And them being called, so they would just say it that way, because it was very hard to understand. Like it is, it's we didn't have words for a lot of these things. So that's why the language has evolved, because nowadays we have a lot of new things that we never had back then. And there's a lot of new things. And our people never really had words like for frustration and stress, because we never had those things. We didn't have a word for us for sins, because we didn't have sins. We made mistakes. and we called that by a different thing. We, we're graduates of the School of Hard Knocks. So we made a lot of mistakes. We didn't have sins. We don't know how to say sorry because everything happens for a reason. And we never had a word, like even for us, we always believed everything happened for a reason. But in the other language, they didn't understand how to say a word that to describe that. So they came up with a word called coincidence. It may or may not be, or may not have happened. It's a coincidence. It's something that just happened, and you associate it with something. I think that's what it means. Anyway, that's how words are made. Creation is made. Creation has changed a lot since the beginning of time. See, even on that back of that turtle, it already has a recording of time. And there's a lot of different things that our people, like we forget to take that time to look around and to remember the beauty that Creator and Great Spirit have given us each and every day. And when we're stressed out and we're going ahead and we got to be here, got to be there, sometimes we forget to just take time to say a prayer and give thanks for all the blessings that we've received and put that tobacco down. Give thanks for the creation of all of life and all the things that have been brought forth with that life. When the sun and the moon were created, and the movement of this earth around the sun, because the sun was created long before the earth. And we are just almost like, how do you say that? We are like one of the moons of the sun and the planet that we're on. And this planet has life, but there are other planets. And we're all like a moon. We all travel around. And the earth travels around. And the reason why we all travel like that is because we experience night and day, and we experience the 4 seasons, depending upon where we are as we travel around that sun. They say Creator made it that way, and Great Spirit, so that we can have that life and we can experience different things. Because there is a lot of water that's around us. And the movement of that water is very, very important. When a child is moving inside of its mother, it's very important for that water. Because without that water, that child has a very hard life while it's in the womb. It can't move. It feels like it's suffocating. Everything around it is tight. So that water is very important. And we can only survive. They're only starting to find that out now today. After 8 days of being without water, the chances of your system, your bodily functions shutting down are great. So we don't always live past 8 days without water. So Creator decided that this water had to flow both up there and down here to create life. So everything is in a circle, just like the back of that turtle. Everything is in a circle. Life is in a circle. Energy is in a circle. The sun and the moon, They're in a circle. Now, that little boy and that little boy, Nana Bojo, and the creator, the woman, she was given a place when the creation of the moon happened. So she sits in the moon. When you look up there, some people say, "Oh, I see cheese." Big spots of cheese all over, Swiss cheese. And some people will say, "I see a man sitting there, and he's got two feathers." Some people will say, "No, I see a rabbit." But in reality, it's that woman. She sits in the moon. So she became our grandmother. So that's how this is Grandmother Moon. They say that if Nana Bojo, they say if Nana Bojo and Grandmother Moon, woman of the West, ever meet one another, there will be catastrophe upon the earth. Because there will be almost like a fight over the creation. Nana Bojo, they say, is currently sleeping. And one day he'll wake up and help our people. These two things are very, very important. Mother Earth in a woman's ceremony, because women are the daughters of the Great Spirit. When we have our time, that's the blood of the Great Spirit that flows through our body. That's why we're connected to him. And that's why we're called the daughters of the Great Spirit. That's not a curse. It's a blessing that we were given to bring forth life. It's not easy to bring life, but we're the vessel that is known between this world and Creator's world. Because the Spirit has to come from Creator's world into this world. And it's women that are the mediums. Mediums, I guess that's the wrong word to say. We're the middle, we're the vessels that we transport that life from this world into this world. The child from Creator's world into this world. We bring forth that life. That's why a lot of times, a long time ago, women used to die in childbirth. It wasn't because we were sinners or anything like that. It was because it was our time to go back to Creator. But a lot of women died during the childbirth. And when we're carrying that life, those babies, they still simulate Nana Bojo, because they change our insides. They'll move our organs around to accommodate that life of that child. So medical doctors find it hard to understand where or why women are able to bleed for 4 days without needing blood transfusions. They know that the egg is sitting on the womb and it comes away, and then it causes a woman to bleed, but they don't know where the blood comes from. And that blood comes from the Great Spirit. And it cleanses that place of life. So everything about these stories here, they're all interconnected. Everything. When you hear the stories of the animals, and you hear the stories of the trees, and you hear the stories of the plants, and you hear the stories of the people, and you hear the stories of the sun, the moon, the stars, they're all interconnected because we're all a part of each other. Everything that Creator and the Great Spirit had envisioned and had passed, everything is within sight of us. So our bodies did not just come from here. Our bodies and our spirits, we came from out there. We came from the Star Nation. And we are star people that are here on the land. We are the First Nations of the people. And it's interesting because you come across little bits and pieces here and there from all over. And it'll show you what is the truth. Now the word for truth is still the same. It's still called Daboy. So anyway, there's so many different things that that are interconnected. But us, we came from the back of the turtle, came from the stars, and we acknowledge that. And that turtle is very important to us in our lives. So when we talk about different things, like Nana Bojo is in a lot of our creation stories because Nana Bojo stayed here with us. He stayed here on the land and he continued to play with creation and make changes. There's many, many stories in Nana Bush because he stayed. He's still here with our people. And he says all of these teachings that he is are all in the rocks. He's never left us. He left all those teachings here for us. But it's up to us to try and to determine what he means by those times of creation, like all those stories. And the only time we can talk about Nana Bojo is when there's snow on the ground. I know one individual wanted to talk about Nana Bojo in the middle of summer, and he had one of those insulating bags, that keeps things hot or cold. And he had this big snowball. He kept it in the freezer all winter long, all spring, right into summer. He brought it out and he he opened it up, he put a little bit on the earth. He says, now I can talk about Nana Bush without getting into trouble. We all just laughed at him, eh? Because with our people, we enjoy life. We try to our best to have a lot of humor. We have a lot of humor. So with that, I'm gonna just let you guys have go and go to the bathroom, grab some tea or bannock, or maybe some jam, and we'll meet you back here in about 10 minutes. Okay? We'll have a break. And don't forget to stretch because it's really important. You can't sit too long without stretching. All right? So we'll talk to you in a bit. Thank you.
Do you want to play some music? Should I play?
Yeah.
I was looking for Anishinaabe music.
That's good. everything is, even your hair is fine if you have to condition your hair.
Yeah, that's halftime in this meeting. We're just having a break.
This is interesting.
I miss power season. I really miss powwow season. I think we all miss it. But they say, I haven't tried it yet, but I'm gonna have to start. If you dance one song a day, you'll be ready for powwow when it does happen. So hopefully we'll be able to have that soon. Either that or else maybe we should find a big enough space where we can all be 6 feet apart and be able to dance. That would really be nice.
There's one question. Do you want
Okay, what's the question?
to? Is Nana Buju said and known to be sleeping at Thunder Bay, the sleeping giant island? Somebody had heard that on EPTN.
Okay, now for that question that's already been placed about Nana Bojo. Yes, that is true. Nana Bojo is sleeping in Thunder Bay. And they say that Nana Bojo is supposed to when Nana Bojo went to sleep, he made the people sleep. So all the people are sleeping with Nana Bojo. And as the story goes, is that when Nana Bojo is ready to wake up, he's going to start waking up the people. So the people will one day be awake. Because they say in the residential schools, they wanted our people to be assimilated. So they found a way of making our people forget who we are and what we are by brainwashing us. I never knew what brainwashing was, but somebody said what that is when they tell you something over and over and over and over, and they make you believe those things. You know, like after a while, you start believing them. So our people are sleeping alongside Nana Bojo, and they're being brainwashed in the residential school. But Nana Bojo, when he wakes up the people is going to ignite that blood memory. And everybody's going to have that blood memory. Some of us are already waking up and experiencing that blood memory. So Nana Bojo is slowly waking up the people already. This is just the beginning of the times. And soon our people will be able to stand together and know what the truth is, because they say that currently the world around us is a world of lies. It's all made up by other people's stories. So when we all start to wake up and realize the truth, and we'll all know who we are, we'll understand ourselves, mind, body, spirit, and emotion, and we'll be able to speak it in a good way, but yet have people understand who we are. And when we stand as a nation, of mankind, will be a lot better. And like I said before, like there is a prophecy that talks about when they say the fire will come from the skies, and out of the fires will rise a new nation of mankind, and they will be known as the rainbow people. And they will be people of all nationalities, but believing in one way of life. and that's the way of the Great Spirit. And as you can see by our children, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, we have no say over who our children and not fall in love with each other. So our nations are already starting to interbreed with each other. So we're already starting to see that coming together, right? So it's going to be something beautiful to see. Okay. So now we'll continue on. So when we talk about the medicine wheel in the Anishinaabe Mon, well, I won't say it in the language, but I'll just say, for example, we have the Red Nation. Now I'm only going to use two colors because I only have two colors. No. I'll talk about these two here. I don't have yellow to do yellow, but the yellow is usually in the south. Okay? The Red Nation and the Blue Nation. Now, the reason why we call them the Blue Nation, we don't call them the Black Nation. We call them the Blue Nation because if you look at a raven or a blackbird, if you get close enough to them to see how it looks when the sun is on them, they don't look black at all. You can see like a shine of blue. And with the Blue Nation, their skin is beautiful and it shines like a blue when the sun is on it. So that's why we call them the Blue Nation, the blue people. We don't call them black because black represents Mother Earth, our mother, the earth, and where she came from, that soil, that richness, eh? She was the soil. So we recognize it as Mother Earth, but we also recognize it as, some people will say that it's recognized as death. For me, I'm a little bit different because I was raised that there is no life without death. When people die, they're reborn right away into another life. Same with animals and trees and plants and stuff like that. That life continues on. There's never an ending without a beginning. Everything is interconnected. And so anyway, they say that in this land here, the blue people never had a say over where they were going to be. They were brought here against their will. And they're the only nation that were like that. The only two nations that were the hardest were the Red Nation and the Blue Nation. And I'm not going to say it's because we're the most gifted, because that's not the truth. We had a hard life because we seen things differently. See, Creator gave every one of these nations something to take care of. When we talk about everything, we have to take care of life. Just like how you take care of yourself, right? And life is so important to have and to be taken care of. Creator and the Great Spirit gave each and every one of us something to take care of. Now, the white nation, the white tribe, they were meant to take care of the air. The blue nation, they're meant to take care of the medicines, plants. The yellow nation, They're supposed to take care of the water. And us, we're supposed to take care of the land. Our mother, Turtle Island, the land. So at one time, all of the nations did these things that they were supposed to do. They were supposed to take care of these things. And they kept everything pure and clean. The air was always clean to take care of. The plants and the medicines, they were always good and strong. The water was pure, and the land, nothing was contaminated, nothing was polluted. Over time, things were forgotten about. See, there's a consequence when you start to forget the teachings of Creator and the Great Spirit. They started to forget what it is that they were supposed to be taking care of when it came to creation. Because our creation story is very, very powerful, and there's a lot more to it than what a lot of people think. Creator gave us all these things to take care of because they're all a part of creation. Now, if people were to today, because everything is being polluted, the air is polluted, the plants are polluted, the water is polluted, the land, it's all polluted. If people today were to die and there was no more human beings on the earth, the world will thrive because we all need each other to survive. But if we're not taking care of our part of it, then we're not taking care of them. So if we were to die, they would thrive. The plants would get better, the air would get better, the water would get better, the land would get better. Because we're the ones that are no longer taking care of them. It's almost like fleas on a dog. We're almost like fleas on a dog. Fleas used to have a reason why they were on animals. They had a particular role to play while they were on them. They used to help those animals. But then after a while, things started changing, and then they started to become what is known as pests or parasites. So it's almost like we're the pests and the parasites to Mother Earth now, because we're no longer doing the things that we're meant to do. Our first law has to do with the creation story. Our first natural law of the land. People don't seem to understand that. First law, because everything has to come through women. Women are the daughters of the Great Spirit. Especially those that are either first or last born, because they have really hard jobs to take care of the people and their families. Those are the clan mothers, the firstborn and the lastborn. So they are the law. However, when we talk about that, because women are a part of this life, if it wasn't for a woman, this wouldn't have continued on, because it was that woman who helped with that creation, right? To bring forth that life into this world. The other one is this one, because Creator gave us this law right here to take care of the land. That's our very first law. So when we take care of the land, we also help to take care of everything else. But it has to start with us first. Even though water was here first, because we were the first ones with land. As long as there is an Indian occupying the land will forever be ours. According to Queen Anne's Royal Order and Council of 1704. Never mind King George. That was a repeat of what Queen Anne said. So when we turn around and we protest, and we're protesting about land, see, this is the thing, is that other nations understand our law. They know us. They have to know us. They know our laws better than we know our laws. We have 128 laws, but they only count 10 commandments. But we have 128 laws, and this is the beginning of it. Women are the law, and the law is the land. Can't have one without the other. And Indian Affairs will tell you you cannot have land without an Indian. You have to have, Indians have land. It's a connection. So when you take care of the land, if you're protesting and you're taking care of the land, you're standing up and you're following our first law. Never mind anybody else's, because ours is the law of the land. We have examples, okay? Because if we don't take care of the land, something's going to happen. A long time ago, the blue people, they allowed other nations to come in and clear cut the medicines, the rainforest. And even though they knew that they were supposed to take care of the plants and the meds, they started to forget or understand why. Then they started to suffer, because without the plants, there's not very many animals in that area. So then you start to starve yourself. So they started to having starvation, hunger. That's where they started getting all those pictures of those poor babies crying. Now they cry because they lose a lot of parents because of HIV. Water. What happened with the Asian people? We didn't understand why they were having tsunamis. And I can't say this for sure, but I can tell you that there are some people that have theories that because Asian people were exploding nuclear weapons under the water to see if they can utilize those atomic energies, that they gave themselves their own tsunami. Now, I'm not sure about that because I'm not a scientist. I'm just repeating something that, a theory that was stated, okay? But they say when you do something against Creator and your job that you're given, it always comes back to bite you. Now, the air. If you're not taking care of things, you will have a hard time to breathe. Because you need to have the plants and you need to have the circulation of the water. You see, because when I say there's male and female in everything, there's male and female in water. People don't realize that, right? The female water stays on the earth because women always stay close to their mothers. Yeah. And in teenage years, we usually fight with our mothers, but that's another story. But we stay close to our mothers, so the water circulates. Now, the water turns into male energy after it evaporates. It evaporates and goes into the clouds. When it sits long enough with the thunder beings, when they release that water, and that's the male water that they release onto the earth that helps to create life. So there's always male and female in all things. The air that we breathe, like right now, hydro doesn't actually clear cut where they're going to put their hydro dams. they do not take out those trees or their roots. So they when you flood an area and the tree is the tree takes in our breath, like we breathe out, the trees breathe in. They take in what we breathe out, right? And that goes down into their roots and they create oxygen and they breathe out oxygen and we breathe that. But if we don't take care of it, it's going to come back to bite us. Air. When you flood an area and you don't take care of the roots of those plants, what happens is you create natural gas. So natural gas comes from the roots of those plants, those trees that are being flooded. And when you're in a boat and you're traveling through those areas, you'll see bubbles on the water. Just like if when you're underwater and you blow bubbles, that's how that tree is. I don't know if it's farting or what, but there's bubbles in the water. And what it's doing, it's releasing natural gas into the water because that tree didn't finish creating the oxygen. So it's a natural gas now, carbon monoxide, and coming back into the world. So a lot of people say it's the ozone up in the sky. But I think that it has a lot to do with what's already here. Because the pollution, right? They don't realize that they're polluting the air by doing what they're doing. Without creating, because hydro needs to create, they need to take care of the plants to make sure the water is clean so they can divert the land. And if they're not going to make an ecosystem, they have to create an ecosystem that'll sustain life in order to help life to continue. And it's not just the fact that we need to have these things done. We really need to have them done for the future generations. Because right now we only borrow the land from our grandchildren and great-grandchildren and all those generations up ahead. We borrow this from them. We borrow the air, we borrow the medicines, the plants. We borrow the water from the future generations. But we, in this generation, we need to take care of those things. So if the nations are starting to forget what they're meant to take care of, then we have to remind them, because we need life to exist. You see, money may be almost a god right now, because we need it for everything in order to survive in this day. It's a tool for survival is what it is. That's probably one of the reasons why Indians don't really care too much about money. You know, it's there. We spend it right away as soon as we get it. We don't know how to save it. You know, so we're not really good with it. But money cannot buy life. See, that's what it's all about, eh? It's all about life and preserving life and taking care of life. So we need to take care of ourselves, our families, our children, our men. Then we need to take care of our governments, because at one time women used to be the government. We were the ones who told them what to do and how to take care of things, because we thought about those generations that we're borrowing from, right? We're borrowing all these things, these natural resources. Now we're borrowing it from them. So we used to have to try and think about how we could take care of these things as women and grandmothers, in order to preserve that life for our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, 7 generations down the road. So we were the governments of our people. We were the government. We had 2 chiefs, not just 1 chief. We had 2. We had a chief that worked in the community and a chief that worked out there. Same as we have clan mothers. We had two head clan mothers, and we have other sub-head clan mothers for all the other clans. And they all worked with each other, because you can't have, just like a clock, the way they make those clocks and those spokes. If one is broke, then it stops the movement of the whole clock. It doesn't want to continue on. So there's always got to be something there to replace it. And as soon as one clan mother is gone, there's another one that's been raised to take that one's place. Those are the women that are in the family that are the strong ones, that are the very most vocal ones, that are able to speak up and say things, not in a negative way, but in a positive way. And for our people to understand, to remind them of our obligations to the Great Spirit and to Creator for the things that we need to take care of. Because if I don't talk about these things in life, then I'm not giving you guys the full creation story. Because all these things are a part of creation. And all of these things need to be taken care of. So we need to take care of these things to allow that life to continue. Because remember, money is why they're taking away the resources and polluting everything. But money cannot buy life. There's not enough money in the world that can replace a life. And life is worth more than any amount of money that could ever even be made in the world. We can use it as a tool to help us, right? But gasoline is a natural resource, and you can't take a blanket and throw the blanket into the gas tank, right? You buy the blanket with money. You can't buy that, throw it in the gas tank. The gas is a natural resource, you see. So we need to remember that. And we need to remember that life comes first amongst all things. And these things are the main reason why we have life. Without these things, there is no life. So we need to take care of that life as caregivers. And we need to stand up and start remembering our roles in our lives. And once our women stand and make a stand and say, we are the government, and you need to deal with us because of our children and our grandchildren and our great grandchildren. And if our men stand beside us and protect us while we're saying that, then all life is going to go back to the way it was. And that life is going to be good. Because our men were the strong ones. You see, providers, protectors, right? We need our men because our men know how to live off the land. They know how to take care of the air. They know how to take care of the plants through their farming. And they respect the water. Our men were taught these things. Even though they may not cognitively know what they were taught. But they were taught about life. Now the thing is to try and overcome the part where we were taught violence from the residential schools. Because violence was not a way of our life, especially within our families and our communities. We used to stand strong beside each other. If one family lost somebody, the rest of the community, like our village or whatever, we would be right there to help them, to stand, to overcome those things. If somebody got sick and had 6 kids, the whole community would be over there cooking and cleaning and taking care of things. Not with COVID. No mask, no gloves, no sanitation, and no more than 5 people in a building. So we got to be careful right now, but once we're able to, It'd be a good thing for our people to start doing things that they're meant to be doing. I can't tell people what actually to do, but there are ways that we can get around things. The other nations, they call them remedies. For us, we call them life, because our law happens to do with life. You see, just like the blue nation and the yellow nation, if because it's natural law, creator's law. If we don't do what we're meant to do here, somehow we're going to pay for it. If we don't pay for it in this lifetime, our children, our grandchildren, great grandchildren, great great grandchildren, somewhere down the road, somebody's going to pay for it. And why will they be paying for it? Because we're cursing ourselves today by not helping these things, not taking care of them. Our people need to start going back to the land, teaching our children how to survive. Because right now, when electricity goes out, nobody knows where they're supposed to take a poop. Right? Because you need electricity to flush the toilet. Maybe you'll get the first one down, but you won't get the rest because the sump pump is no longer working.
Jeez.
So we need to start going back to the land, learning how to survive, learning how to grow our own vegetables. Because right now, the vegetables that are being grown out there, they're experimenting with them. They're called genetically modified organics. They're changing the structure of the plant, and they don't know what that plant is. The plant is no longer nourishing people. It's going to be causing sicknesses. Some of it's causing cancer. And it's almost like cloning. And we believe that when you're cloning somebody or something, there's no spirit. But that creator created everything. There's a spirit in everything. Everything has a spirit. The plants have a spirit, the water has a spirit, the land has a spirit, even the air has a spirit. So we need to be respectful to all things, right? To give, I don't know about you guys, but I give tobacco to all things because I know that that's all a part of me. But if I'm not respectful to them, I'm gonna be the one to suffer, right? So I give tobacco when there's tornadoes, hurricanes, and I ask for my family to be watched over. I give tobacco for the plants and the medicines, even the food. I give tobacco for the water so that my family will be watched over when they're traveling through those waters, right? Because my grandmother's last name is Passage. They were the last, one of the last families to take an English name, and they made sure that they took that name of Passage. So, and my other grandmother on my dad's side, her last name was Lake. So I know to take care of the water and the land as well. Be respectful to the land. Try not to put anything there that doesn't deserve to be there. And if you take too much metals from the land, the gravity is going to change. So if the gravity changes, then the world is going to move. That's why the world is slowly shifting. Time seems like it's changing, right? It's because of that. Too much metals are being taken from the land, and not enough of them are being put back into the land. So we got to be careful, what it is that we allow to come out. We got to remember to put back, because we can't always just take. It's a give and take situation, just like friendship, just like partnership, right? Give and take. Share everything with one another. The land too, the metals. They give us the metal to use while we need to use it, but we also need to break it down and put it back inside the land, not just leave it in a garbage dump, and then pile it over and forget that it exists. We need to start taking care of those things and putting these things back, or reusing what it is that we take out, so that we're not changing too much of the function of the land. Because that turtle can only take so much, right? That turtle is already broken in many different ways because of the ice ages. And First Nations people, we have oral history that goes way back to the dinosaurs. When dinosaurs were our pets, they helped us. They'd move things for us. We needed them in order to move heavy objects, right? So we have oral history that goes back that far. So anyway, these are the things that we need to start taking care of. Even the sun and the moon. Like, even when people prepare for Sundance, they're preparing for Sundance, but yet they dance at night. Because there has to be that equality between the sun and the moon. Just like there has to be equality with all things. Like, we're not way up there, like everybody says, oh, we're at the top of the food chain. Oh yeah, we're at the top of the food chain. Those lions and bears, stuff like that, they'd love to eat us. We probably taste pretty bad, because if you eat too much McDonald's, well, they don't need to preserve you. You got enough preservative in your body that you're going to be taken care of. Your body will be taken care of after this life. They don't need to embalm you. But we do need to take care of these things. All of this is life. All of this needs to be remembered. And all of this needs to be shared. So I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity to share with you. Why? Because now you guys can share this with your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and with other people. That's the whole purpose of sharing things and sharing knowledge. It's not that one individual is smarter than another. It's just that one individual was given something to share with others. And then somebody else is going to share with me, and somebody else is going to share with them. It's all a part of that. We're all a part of that great circle of life. And we need to do that. So it'll be really important for all of these things to be shared with other people, because it needs to be shared. That message needs to get out there. And because we do not write things, we don't write them down, but we do share things, because us, it's a verbal thing. Our oral history is so important. And what I'm told is, as long as you're not writing it down, you're not, it can't be changed. This, I can write this down and I can talk about it, but I can't write everything that I've told you in a book. Because if I write it in a book, somebody can change those things. And that's not what we're about. We're about making sure that our way of life gets to have strength, and our way of life gets to be known. And for me, I've had many different teachers that I've learned these creation stories from. So I've taken some of this and some of that and some of this and some of that, and they're all by Anishinaabe people. And this is the reason why I come back and I talk about these things with you. Because we need each other in order to survive. We need to take care of life just like we take care of death. And we take care of even those that have gone on to the next life. We feed them and give them tobacco from this life. Those are our angels, those are our ancestors. Those are our people, our families. So we need to take care of them too. And if people want to learn how to do those things, just take tobacco and a gift to somebody who knows, an elder who would know those things. You know, there's lots of them out there. And if you're scared, or if you don't know if that individual, because we do have some, I'll be very honest, because of the residential schools, we have some people that are sick. So what I do is I try to tell people, when you go see somebody, you make sure you take somebody with you. That way you're protecting that elder and you're protecting yourself. So you always make sure that you do that, and everything will be good. Everything. You just got to remember that though. So I'm going to open up for questions and answers, because I like people to walk away not wondering what this meant and what that meant, and this way they get clarification of those teachings and everything that they need to know. So what I'll be doing is you can either if you don't feel like talking about it, you can put it on the chat. If you want to share it, then you'll be open for that as well. Okay. You can take it from there.
Somebody had just asked earlier if we're going to be sharing the video. Maybe if you want to share why we don't post it.
Why we don't post it?
Or yeah, like why.
One of the reasons why we don't post these things is because for one, we don't want people to be changing things, right? And two, it's always better to learn your teachings from somebody who you're able to at least get clarification from. That's the reason why we have this open. I have it open to people, because there were some times when I was younger, I used to have a lot of questions, but I was very fortunate. And when I was growing up, the elders that I was with, some of my elders, I'm older than what I look actually, and some of my elders were from the 1800s. As a matter of fact, a large portion of them were from the 1800s. And they were my grandfather's elders. Most of them were my grandmother's elders. And my grandfather was born in 1907. So those elders are from that time, and like from before my grandfather's time. So a lot of those things, that's where most of this comes from. And we don't want them to be misinterpreted, because sometimes people will see things or hear things and they'll run with it, and they'll change things. But if you have an elder that you're able to talk to about and ask questions, why do we do this? Why do we do that? And is it okay to do this and that? Then you're getting direction. So you know exactly what it is that you're supposed to be doing and how to do it properly. Because it's better to do it that way than to just take it upon yourself and change things around. Because sometimes we hurt ourselves by doing that. So we'd rather not share the videos like in that way. This way you have a better way of asking. Okay. I hope that answers the question.
Another question is, I guess somebody missed the part about the fourth tree that you had talked about. So the one after the weeping willow. Do you remember?
Okay. The fourth tree. So there's a Ogimao, there's a twisted woman, there's a weeping willow. And did I talk about the fourth tree? What was the fourth tree?
Oh, is there a fourth tree? Was the
Oh,
question.
there's lots and lots of trees. Like there's a warrior tree. It's called He Stands Alone. And that one there, nothing grows underneath him, because he's the tall pine, what they call tall pine now. because he was a warrior who stood really tall, and he was always straight. He was straight, and nothing grows underneath him because his pines always hit the ground. So he he stood alone in life, and now he stands alone in spirit because he's that tall pine. But there's a whole story. Like, this is just bits and pieces to these stories, eh? So there's lots and lots of stories. There's a story for everything in creation, everything. The only thing I can't tell you stories about is why the Richardson building was named the Richardson building. Or why the road is this or the road is that. Because these are all things that were made like afterwards. But I can tell you things that were here, that like stories from long before all these other things were created. And I hope that answers that question.
So next question, Rhonda asked why we only talk about Nanabushu in the winter.
The reason why we only talk about Nanabushu in the winter is because, well, it's a tradition that first started when our people, you see, our people always harvested, like we harvest different things different times of the year. But in the winter time is the time to stay in the house or to stay warm. So our storytellers always talked about Nanabushu in the winter to our children and our grandchildren while we sat and we worked on medicines, and we did a lot of sewing. We'd sew winter clothes because the kids are always growing, and we need to have new moccasins for our men for the next season, right? Especially when it's harvesting rice, because the men used to dance on the rice. So we always had something to do in the winter time. So Nanabushu is the reason why we always only talk about Nanabushu is that time. And also the fact that our mother, the earth, right? She's got a blanket over top of her, and that makes her hair all white, right? And that's the snow. So she becomes very wise, and she's becomes that woman that's in that, like, the creation of that woman, right? Grandmother Moon. So it's kind of like representing that. So Nana Bourgeois and that woman they're kind of coinciding with creation because they're telling children these stories. These children are learning different ways of survival through the stories. And they're learning through the creation stories. So that spirit of the grandmother moon, right? That woman from the west and that little boy from the east, they're together during that period of time while they're talking. And you don't want to be getting that mixed up. So we always say it's always best to tell that story while there's snow on the ground, so that wise woman, that grandmother spirit is there.
Another question is, can you please elaborate on when someone visits a person or elder who is sick and it's important to bring somebody with you, as well as some tobacco?
Well, tobacco, it depends, because if you're going for healing or teachings or whatever, that tobacco is like, okay, our people, that was one of the things that we grew, that we harvested here, and we shared, and we use that as a medicine, and we recognize it as being very, very sacred. And it was one of our first things that the European people wanted. Well, we had corn and stuff, but they wanted that tobacco. So, but tobacco is always the first thing that we give out of respect, to show all of life, right? We show the water respect, we show the land respect, the air, by giving that tobacco. And when we're talking with an elder, we're giving that elder respect, but also that tobacco, if you need to be healed or you need medicine, that tobacco will help protect you and that medicine person from that sickness, because that's a spirit. And if that individual is not quite healthy, it'll protect the individual who's giving it, right? And you have your person beside you as well. So, because we don't always know, like, they like that school, that residential school taught our people a lot of negative things. Our people never had those things before. A long time ago, we never had such things. Our people, like our families and that, and respect and everything, always came first. All of those laws that Creator gave us, our people lived that, not just once a week, but every single day, every single hour, every single minute. We lived our life like that. Everything is sacred. So we never had those abuses before. But because of the residential school, it took over the parenting of the parents. And a lot of our people lost those parenting skills. But the residential schools became the parents, and they taught the children a lot of negative things. And those abuses that were indulged in those schools were also taught to those children. So um, we always want our people to be protected: mind, body, spirit, emotion, right? Physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. We want everybody to have that in a good way, in a healthy way. We want everybody to have good and healthy experiences. So this way, when you're there, you're that tobacco not only protects you, right? It protects them, because they don't know who they're dealing with either, right? And because there's so many sicknesses out there, eh, you never know what's going to happen. So tobacco, because tobacco is very sacred, and because they say that that's the first medicine of the Great Spirit, right? That's the reason why we use that one. That's the reason why we say tobacco is sacred. Please don't abuse it. Try to use it in a good way. If you use it to smoke, please pray with it, so that it won't be harming you or others. It's a very sacred thing. So anyway, I hope I've answered that for you.
Another question is, are we able to access you through Anish to do virtual speaking engagements with students?
Yes, you need to talk to Eva Wilson Fontaine. She's the one that you would be able to speak to regarding that.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll just add that if you wanted to make a request, you can send it to the admin@anish.ca email address. I can put it in the chat just in a few minutes here, and then any requests for speaking engagements, Sharon's open to it. We also have some other speakers that you'll have a chance to meet in some upcoming sessions. So yeah, just send us an email if that's something you're interested in. All right, another question. I was wondering about traditional birthing practices. You had mentioned that a lot of women passed away during childbirth. Today I've noticed that birthing still remains difficult. I was wondering what birthing looked like in these days. Did they have birthing lodges or songs sung, medicine used? I view birth as a very sacred ceremony, and one of the most sacred ceremonies women will ever be in. So this is why she's asking.
Well, you're going to be really interested to know this, is that a long time ago, we never had midwives. Before we had things, is that the man and the woman, before any Europeans came here or anybody else from other lands, the man and the woman, when it was her time to have the baby, she would let him know, and they would go out, and the man would stand, and he'd be like a guard, because the blood and the water, sometimes it attracts animals. They can smell it from a far distance. So the woman would give birth on her own. And once she gave birth, and she would clean up the child on her own. She would just walk back with the man, and they would take their baby with them. And everything was left in the hands of the Great Spirit, whether she lived or died. And most of the women lived. It wasn't a common thing at one time for us to have women die. That became later on when other things started happening in life. Like today, we wouldn't, from what I understand, the doctors are just starting to find out that they've been doing research on breast cancer, and what they're finding is that when women don't breastfeed their children, they have a greater risk of having breast cancer. Like there's a reason why Creator created things the way that they were made. And there's a reason why we have to abide by those things, because when we're changing things, we're creating negative things. It's not a good thing. But other nations and even ourselves, the ones that forgot, because our people are sleeping, and because of what they learned, that so a lot of things are forgotten about. And people are just starting to relearn who they are and where they're coming from. And then after a while, we started having midwives. Like my grandmother told me that the only time she used a midwife was when my mother was born, and my mother was the fifth baby. My mom had a set of twins, but my mom's older sister, twin sister, she passed. The midwife cut the cord too short, and my mom's older sister bled to death because they were on the back of a buck wagon. I know this sounds like country and western stuff, but it's true. They were on a wagon and they were rushing towards the hospital because my grandmother never ever had a hard birth or a hard time. But this time she knew that there was something wrong, so she had a midwife, and she was on the buck wagon going into Selkirk, and they hit a rock on the road, and it made a bump just as she was cutting the cord, and that's why the cord was cut too short. They couldn't even tie a shoelace to stop the bleeding. So my mom's sister bled to death, and my mom was born in between the doors of the hospital, of the Selkirk Hospital. So people used to tease my mother. They used to say she didn't know if she was coming or going. So that's how I understand that. But we're starting to go back to those ways now, because what we're starting to realize is that if you live a healthy life and you have a healthy pregnancy, and there's teachings that go with pregnancies, and there's teachings before when you want to have a baby. My grandmother taught me that when I had my son. So my son he's a big man, but he's a calm giant, very gentle, very calm. And only because my grandmother taught me how to carry him and how to go about having that life and taking care of that life, because it begins before the child is here. So I started to learn about that, and there's a lot of different things to it. But our women are starting to go back to that way of life. Like there's some that are having birth in the water. There are some of us that are going back to the midwives, and it's a good thing that I wasn't being stubborn or trying to be like my grandma, because I would have died. I'm big boned, and my bones would not have opened for my child, because when my son was born, I had to have cesarean myself. So anyway, that's why I say that I would have died giving birth. Anyways, I hope that I answered that question for you. And is there any more?
Yep, there's another question. Lisa says her son is epileptic and has grand mal seizures, and he suffers from depression. Some talk about bad medicine on him or a spirit. Could you share what this means or medicines that can protect or heal?
There's a lot of different things that can cause sicknesses like that. And sometimes it has to do with, we don't like to talk about bad medicines and stuff like that. We don't really believe in bad medicines because Creator gave us everything that's good. It's up to the individual who's using medicine. If they have bad mind or a bad heart, and they want to hurt people because they're hurt, then they do things to hurt others. So in order to distinguish what it is that, and every individual is different. Like some people will heal with medicine and they'll be fine. And others have to go and see somebody who can take care of it in a different way. So there's all different kinds of ways of doing that healing. It's up to the individual that you're asking, because somebody who's kind of what we call contrary, they won't do the same as the medicine man and just give you medicine, right? So it's up to the ancestors. The ancestors are the ones that'll determine what that individual needs for healing. Sometimes it's ceremonies. Sometimes there's some ceremonies that they need to attend, to go through and get that healing from all different kinds of people. But it's because healing is not the same for everybody. What may work for one individual may not work for another. So it's up to where you're guided to go and ask for that healing. And that's the kind of healing that you will get. And I hope that I've answered that question for you.
Mm-hmm. Somebody recommended Harlequin cannabis for depression and Charlotte's Web for seizures. So, because there's lots of medicines out there for different.
Yeah, there are a lot of medicines out there. And to be honest with you, I was never taught. I was taught. I was taught when I was very small, and I was taught that. Well, after a while, when I started getting older, they started calling it kishkwe sema. And the reason why they called it that is because when people would sit there, they'd start laughing at commercials. So it's kind of like they're crazy. But to be honest with you, I was always taught that that is a medicine. And it has to be used as a medicine. Therefore, you need to give tobacco for it. You need to feast it. You have to give thanks for that spirit. You have to, for the work that it does, and you have to treat it like that. Now, if you abuse a medicine, it will work against you, right? It'll take away your good memories. It'll take away a lot of things. So it's a good thing for you to start using those things as a sacred object if you're going to be using them. And I when I was a teenager, I used to smoke marijuana, or what it was called at the time was marijuana, and I used to abuse it. And my grandmother came because I got that teaching when I was very small about it being sacred and how you're supposed to treat it, and it is a medicine. But because I was abusing it, my grandmother came up to me when I was a teenager and she turned around and she said, well, they always used to call me bungins. Bungins, quit doing that. You know that teaching. And I say, what teaching, Grandma? And I just kind of try to brush her off because I fell asleep for a while spiritually. So anyway, my grandmother turned around and she sat down with me. She gave me a cigarette. And so I quieted down, I listened. And my grandmother told me, she said, remember, she says, Creator gave us everything, and everything is sacred. Everything that we use as a medicine to help heal people's minds, bodies, and spirits and emotions needs to be treated like a medicine. It needs to be respected as a medicine and as being sacred. And you can't be abusing it just because it makes you feel good. You need to use it so that you can feel good when you need it, not because you want it. There's a big difference. And you need to start recognizing and respecting the spirit of that medicine, because it's going to take away from you if you don't. And you don't want to have anything taken away. So then I thought about it, and I went over, I emptied out my pockets, and there went my marijuana, and there went my hash, and I gave everything away. Everybody thought it was really Christmas. And anyway, I didn't realize that I was going to be changing my life, and that this is this is the road that I was going to be put on. And that's the reason why I was taught that and why I was given those things. But yeah, and marijuana can help you physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and you need to treat it the same as, and recognize that it is sacred, and to use it in that way if you're going to use it. Okay. Now, I don't recommend for everybody to go out there right away and start smoking. There's the oils, and the oils can be used to put on your skin, as well as putting on your tongue. There's a lot of different ways of using these things. So, and if you have like socks or something, or underwear made out of hemp, don't go out there and start burning it and inhaling the smoke. Okay. I hope I answered that question for you.
So it looks like that's all the chat questions. Is there anybody who wanted to speak a question? We'll move our spotlight and do a gallery view. We'll do one at a time. If somebody would like to unmute and ask a question, you're more than welcome. We'll wait a minute or two. Don't be shy. We're a friendly bunch.
Yeah. And I also have a sister. I'll tell you that I have a sister who uses cannabis because she had cancer, and then cancer kept going back into recession, and also back into cancer, like back and forth. So she started using cannabis, and the doctors took her off half of her meds, and her cancer has been in recession for many years now, and it hasn't spread or anything like that. So she's doing great, and it can work wonders. Okay.
No questions? Okay, well, I think we covered a lot. That's a lot. And we did, so.
Okay. All right. I'll be looking forward to hearing from you guys. If no one else has got any questions or anything like that, you have there is a mute button. You can unmute yourself and ask, because what we're going to do is, if you don't ask in the next little while, we're going to start saying, see you all again another time. Hopefully we'll see you again in one of the other workshops. We're going to be doing other workshops for like the Dene creation story, the Dakota creation story, and the Cree creation story. So there's a lot of different options. And as you will see, the different stories people come from different areas, like different ways into the world. So it'll be a really good thing for everybody to even if you're just curious as to which nation comes from where they all have their own stories. So it'd be really good to listen to. I know the Mi'kmaq people, they come from the earth. I think it's the earth.
Wow.
Uh,
I'm excited to hear all of the stories.
Yeah, so it's really interesting for everybody to sit back and listen to find out what it is, like, all those different stories. And like we always say, when you're listening to people and they're talking about different things, always keep an open mind, because sometimes you don't know how it's supposed to help you, but you're hearing it for a reason. And sometime down the road, all of a sudden you'll be sitting there and you'll sit there and it'll be just like a spark, and you'll say, "Oh, that's what they were talking about." So that's how things come about.
Oh, it looks like Lisa, do you have a question? Oh, sorry, I'm just gonna
Hold on,
fix
Lisa, just for a
our
moment.
audio. Can't hear you, but our volume's up.
Lisa, can you check to see where your volume is on your computer?
I'm just gonna walk across. Yeah, because I don't know why, but for some reason the audio's not coming through. Yeah, it shows as unmuted.
Yeah, it shows that you're unmuted, Lisa, but we're having a hard time to hear you.
But maybe if you put your question or comment in the chat, then I can read it for you.
Yeah, can you put it in the chat, Lisa, please?
Yeah, sorry about that. Not too sure, but
That was another word we never had, was please.
so maybe I'll give her a minute, but somebody else did ask a question. Maybe we can do that one real quick. Somebody asked, what does it mean when an ancestor appears in a picture taken during a thunderstorm?
That means that you're being watched over.
Wow.
Yeah, it means that you're being watched over. The ancestors don't really expect to be caught in pictures, but sometimes they are. Even sometimes when people take pictures of fires or smoke, they'll see the ancestor there. Or sometimes if you're just taking pictures and you see a light, that's also an ancestor. Sometimes those things happen, but it's just the fact that they're watching over you and protecting you, letting you know that they're there. So they don't really want you to know, like, they don't expect to be in pictures, but they're there to watch over us, and they just happen to get into these things. Okay, because some of our ancestors, they were here and during times when we didn't have cameras, because we didn't always have these things. Some of them were here only in times where we had started making rock paintings. Okay.
Deanna asked, if someone such as myself who grew up in foster care in the system and was not introduced to my culture, where would be a good place to start learning about it?
Start listening to the teachings as many as you can, and then approach an elder when you feel comfortable with somebody, Because I'm not going to tell you to go out there and look for an elder, because you might come across some people that you don't really feel comfortable with. Always follow your heart. When you feel comfortable with somebody, you have a really good connection, and you feel like that's the individual you want to see, then by all means go see them.
You mentioned blood memory earlier. Could you explain what that is? They're a 60 soup survivor and they're curious.
Okay. Blood memory is okay. Our ancestors experienced different things from a long time ago, and through your DNA, your blood, that memory lies within inside of you. Because you see, a lot of people don't seem to understand that when we say that whatever you experience in this lifetime will affect the next 7 generations, it does. Whatever has affected people from 7 generations back, you have experienced those experiences as well. You have the memories of those things that they had experienced. And that's how it goes, like the blood memory. Like when I was a young girl, like I had teachings and that, but we were always taught you have to be quiet. You're not allowed to say anything. If you say something, you might end up going to jail, or they might end up getting arrested, or so we weren't allowed to talk about these things. We had to be quiet. So when I was a young girl, I went into a boys and girls club, and my mom went to residential school. She didn't know how she didn't even know how to cook. I taught my mom how to make bannock when I was 8 years old, because I learned it from my grandparents, my grandmother. But my mom, she was still learning because she went to that residential school. I was just lucky because I was a trapline baby. I went to the trapline with my grandpa. So anyway, when I walked into that boys and girls club, I seen beads sitting there, and I was waiting for my cousin, so she had to go talk to somebody, and I sat down, and I thought, oh, this look interesting. So I started threading that needle and making a knot, started beading, and I'm making all kinds of earrings and necklaces and bracelets and rings. And this woman comes out. She goes, oh, she says, are those ever pretty? She says, how long have you been beading? I looked at the clock. Well, about an hour. She goes, oh, she says, no, like how long have you been beading? I says, I told you, about an hour. She says, no. She says, in order to do all of this, she says, and where did you learn? And I says, right here. And she says, what? I says, nobody showed me. I just picked up the needle, I says, and I started beading. And she said that was blood knowledge. I didn't understand what blood knowledge was yet, because we never talked about that. We just talked about 7 generations ahead and 7 generations behind, and how we all know those things. So she asked me to come to Seven Sisters, and she gave me a paper for my mom to sign. So I took it home, got my mom to sign it, and then when time came, I went to go to Seven Sisters. They all got into boats, and they all started. And I turned around, and I says, well, which boat am I going in? She looked at me. She says, oh, you're going to take that boat right there. I looked at her and I said, what do you mean I'm going to take that boat right there? I don't know anything about steering a boat. She says, well, that's the one you're going to take. She says, you'll figure it out. I says, I'm not going to figure it. And then they all left me. And we had to go through these poles and everything, and then by the rapids. I was just scared, eh? I says, how am I going to do this? I don't know nothing about canoes. And it was a big, and I had all the supplies. I didn't know how I was going to get over there. And I couldn't go back to the vehicle because they locked it up. So I was stuck. So I had no choice but to try. And I moved away from from the shore, and I was just scared. And then I started realizing, hey, this paddle. I said, I can do a lot of things with this paddle. And I started going the other side, and then I started learning how to steer. And next thing you know, I'm just going like an old pro in and out of those things. And then by the rapids, it was nothing. Oh boy, it was easy. And then when I got there, she said, see, I told you. She says, because you have blood knowledge. I knew you were going to make it. And I turned around and I said, well, I'm glad you had faith in me, because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But that's what it is. It's blood knowledge. And she wasn't a First Nation woman. She was a college graduate. So she knew more about blood knowledge than what I did. I hope that answers your question.
Maybe we'll do one more question. Just Lisa had typed it out. Her question was, well, she apologized about the audio, but she'd like to know what happens to the soul of an individual who commits suicide, or what the ancestors' teachings are on that topic.
Okay. You're speaking to, I'm the right individual to ask that question, because I died of suicide. And I was sent back. So I do have I did a video with a friend of mine, Aaron Peters. We put a video out. We were trying to, what we were trying to do is we were trying to reach out to as many people as we could in regards to suicide, because it's such a hard topic. We've all had people who have experienced suicide within our families, myself included. So what I'm going to share with you is just my own experience. But I'll let you know this. I never seen no heaven and I seen no hell. Well, at least I didn't see no hell. What I seen though was I experienced darkness, and I heard the voices of my family members talking. And when they cried, I hurt. My spirit hurt. Every time they cried, every time they said something. And they talked about how selfish I was, that I never thought about anybody else, and and I should have thought about them, and who were they going to go to, and who's going to help them, and stuff like that. And I started finding myself. It was like I can see kind of like a stick in my hand every now and then, but it would disappear, and it had a little light. It's kind of like it was there and then was gone, there and gone. Then I heard a voice, and I was told, if you try this again, this is what's going to happen to you. So you need to turn around, just like you need to turn around your life. So I turned around, and he says, you see that light that's up ahead there? And there was just a tiny little speck of light, just a tiny little speck. And he said, go to that light. So I started walking, and I was walking on a red road, and I was passing these different colors as I was going. It was like I felt like I was in the Northern Lights when I was passing through those colors. The different colors you see in the Northern Lights, that's how I felt. And then I got to that light, and I was just like this. I was skinnier then, because I was able to get in there, just squeeze myself inside that light, and I went into that light. And when I got in there, I felt my knees and I cried, because I felt an overwhelming sense of love, so overwhelming that I couldn't stop crying, because I'd never felt that here in this lifetime. And I can smell the water, and I can hear the voices, and I recognize some of those voices. of people that I loved that were on the other side. And I wanted to go there, but there was a man who stopped me. He stood in front of me. And I looked inside this man's eyes because I was trying to see who he was. But I didn't see no eyes. All I seen was fire. And I looked at this man's skin to try and figure out who he was. And his skin kept changing, all different colors of mankind. Not one color, but all colors. And that man told me, he said, before you were born, Creator chose you to do something on the earth. And he chooses many people. But he chose you for a certain thing. And no one else can do it but you. So you have to go back. And I said, no, please don't send me back. I don't want to go. And he says, no, you also made a promise to God, the great spirit of all things. And you have to fulfill that promise. And you have to fulfill your destiny. And I grabbed hold of his legs and I held on to him tight. And I said, no, I don't want to go. And it was just like, bolt of lightning. He sent me back. And I sat up and I went, and my sister was sitting beside me. She was on the phone. I think she was phoning the ambulance or the morgue or something, because she just flew across the room. She took off out of the room. I don't know where she went. The phone was still hanging on the floor. And I realized I had a whole bunch of blankets. She was trying to warm up my body. But rigor mortis was already starting to set in, so I was cold. And it was in Calgary where I tried to take my life. And it was the hottest day in Calgary, and I had a bunch of blankets. So I got up. I didn't realize, I thought that it was just a dream. You know, that's how it was. It was just like it was a dream. And see, I was diagnosed before this. I was diagnosed with cancer, and they wanted to do further tests. And I was given a lot of pills, big bottles of Tylenol 3 with codeine for the pain. And I kept putting them away and putting them away. And I used to get 90 at a time. So I took 3 of those big bottles, 3 big bottles of those pills. And I had a bottle of whiskey, and I tried to take my life. So chances of me waking up, I should never have woken up. My sister, I went into the kitchen because I was cold. I was freezing. I was just shivering and I was just shaking. I was so cold. I wanted to warm up my body, and I took my coffee in because I was pouring myself coffee. I noticed that my nails were the same color as what my shirt is, right? My nails right in here are that color. And my skin looked gray. I don't even know anything that's here that's gray. Like gray hat. But my skin was gray. And I remember what he said to me before he sent me back, though. He said he was going to give me a reminder to let me know that what I experienced was the truth, and that I would see it every time. And I thought, okay. So it took me a long time because I never liked looking at myself. Anyway, that day when I went to the bathroom, though, and I looked at myself because the warm water, oh, it felt so good on my hands and on my face. And that was the only part of me that was warm, right? Because, you stick your hands in warm water and it warms you up. So, but I looked at my skin. I looked so pale and gray. my lips were kind of like bluish purple. And I didn't want to look at myself. I didn't like looking at myself. And it wasn't until I started doing my healing journey. And for me, I went through Alkali Lakes Treatment Center, which is Round Lake. And I also took courses there. But when I was there, then I realized, because for the first time in my life, I looked at myself in the mirror, and I looked long, and I was trying to figure out, what did he mean when he said to me, I'll notice it when I look at myself. That's my reminder. Then I started to realize, because my eyes always change color, because I have Cree, Dakota, Anishinaabe, and Mi'kmaq bloodlines, but I also have Norseman, like a little bit of Viking blood, and Scottish. So my eyes change all different colors with whatever I wear or whatever mood I'm in. And anyway, what I notice is that my one eye is blue. My one eye is blue. And this eye still changes color. Some days they're almost the exact same color, but not all the time. I was going to try and buy those contact lenses, the ones that have different colors. And I was going to try and situate them so that my eyes would be the same color all the time. And then I thought, I never realized that I always thought maybe I was cursed. But in reality, now today I'm starting to understand it's a blessing. So I don't have brown eyes. I don't have yellow eyes. Well, my one eye changes color: brown, yellow, green, gray, green, blue. So once in a while, my eyes are almost the same color, but one will always be bluer than this other one. So that's my reminder, and that's what I tell people. But I'm going to tell you this. I know that when you're in that place, though, everybody is given a certain amount of time to live in this world. That spirit of that individual is not going to be there forever. See, the purpose of that light, that stick, the light, is to find offerings of tobacco and food. So as long as you feed them and give them tobacco, they're always going to be there. That you know that they're taken care of. And I know that they're only there until either everybody forgives them or their time is up of how long they were supposed to be in this world. They won't be there forever. Not like how some people believe, like, fire and brimstone, heaven and hell. It's not like that at all. We're only there, we're only here to learn things. We're not here to continue suffering. So that's the blessing of it. If we take care of those that have taken their lives, we do our best to take care of their spirit the best that we can. We know that that whatever little that we do for them or in this world will be a lot in that world. And we don't have to worry about them. And the faster that we're able to forgive them for taking their lives, the faster they'll be able to travel to that spirit world. Because our spirit world is that northern lights. That's why I seen all those lights. Right? That's why they call it Wawate, Wawatik, Wawatyu. Depends on what your translation of that is. We were given our spirit world so that we can see it and we know where we're going when our life here is gone. And we don't need to miss those that are gone because they're right there. We can see them. And when we put tobacco down, sometimes you'll see them come right down and take that tobacco. So we know that they're there. If you have a cigarette, put that cigarette, say, this is for you, put it in the ashtray, talk to that spirit. Because they're going to be there. How you're going to know that they're going to be there? You watch that cigarette. When you take a puff and that lights up, when you put it down there for them, you'll know that they're puffing on that cigarette because you'll see it light up just like you're smoking it yourself. So you never have to worry. People that are gone, their spirit is here with us. They're taking care of us. Just like we need to take care of them. Like I said, that circle of energy. Because that's what your spirit is. Your spirit is out of energy. And I hope that I've answered that. Is there any more?
I think that's all the common questions. So a lot of people are saying thank you. We can read through those all. Make sure that you have those comments as well. But it's 3:43 right now.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for being a part of this today. It wouldn't have happened without you. So thank you very much for being a part of it, coming. And hopefully we'll see you for some more of our teachings and that.
Yeah.
All right.
Just a quick note, you should receive another email from the Eventbrite website. It's just with a link to a survey. We do really appreciate any type of feedback, whether it's just comments for Sharon or ways that we could improve these sessions. I know that this whole virtual format is really new to us. It's been a bit of a learning journey, getting familiar with the Zoom and the camera and that sort of thing. So any comments or tips, tricks, recommendations that you might have, we would very much appreciate if you just took a few minutes to fill out the survey. So you should have that in your inbox as long as you registered through the Eventbrite, which you should because you got here. So yeah, and then as I mentioned before, any follow-up questions that you might have for Sharon, you can send it to admin. I'm just going to put it in the chat here, admin@anish.ca. If you have any requests for her to speak with a class or just one-on-one sessions, we can help you with that. So that's all I needed to.
And also check the Anish website for all upcoming workshops. And I'm not going to be the only one doing workshops. Like I've said before, there's going to be other people that are going to be doing workshops as well, and it'll be really good to listen to everybody. All right, thank you for now. Bye bye again.